Coming up today on Folks, the first of a two-part report on women behind prison bars. New to the show this year is Sonya Masingale, and she'll be talking to Dr. George Robinson of New Orleans, a veterinarian who makes house calls. We'll close today's show with a bit of gospel music by the Zion Travelers. I'm Rob Hinton. Those stories and more today on Folks.
Everybody says folks, just plain old folks. Everybody just people all over the world. Folks who live, folks got to give, folks got to care, ooh, folks got to share. Our world is small, so very small. What touches one of us, ooh, touches us all. So stay alive, just to survive. Folks got to be in harmony. Everybody just folks. Just plain old folks. Just plain old folks. Everybody just folks. Everybody just folks. Just plain old folks. Just plain old folks. Everybody just folks.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the season premiere of Folks. We have an outstanding lineup for you this fall, so let's get started. Our first story takes us to St. Gabriel, Louisiana, where we visited the Louisiana Correctional Institute for Women. It was an experience that proved to be quite interesting. The Louisiana Correctional Institute for Women, LCIW, houses 376 inmates. Now, that's the maximum number of inmates that the prison can hold. There are some 250 prisoners being detained in parish jails because LCIW is filled to capacity.
LCIW, Louisiana Correctional Institute for Women, is the only facility in the state for incarcerated female felons. Now, unlike the male system, you have medium security prison, maximum security prisons, and minimum security. So depending on how you test out and depending on your crime and et cetera, that you are sent to one of these prisons. In the case of the females, doesn't make any difference what you do, how you test out, you come here. So in terms of maximum security and medium security and minimum security, we have them all together with one exception, and that's the maximum security prisoners. But we don't have separate facilities for different inmates.
The inmates' crimes range from writing worthless checks to robbery to murder. The average age of the inmates is 31 and a half years old. The youngest prisoner is 18. The oldest is 67. Today you'll meet 4 inmates being held at LCIW. 34-year-old Beverly Slaughter is serving a 30-year sentence for second-degree murder. She has been in prison since 1976. 24-year-old Barbara Jarreau is back at LCIW for a second time. She first arrived in June 1981 for the introduction of contraband. She was paroled in June 1983 but was sent back in September 1984 for violating her parole. 29-year-old Shari Littleton arrived at LCIW in September 1979. She is serving a 40-year sentence for negligent homicide, perjury, and conspiracy to commit first-degree murder. And finally, there's 34-year-old Shari Logan. Since April 1982, she has been serving a 15-year sentence for manslaughter. All 4 inmates described for us life before prison.
Simple. Wasn't much. It wasn't exciting, anything like that. Went to school. I have 4 children. Just was with them, that's it. That's about it.
I was a housewife and mother of 2, and I led a fast life in the bars, and running around my husband and I. Just too fast.
It's a mess. My parents were always separated, and they were divorced, and it was just it wasn't a family type situation. I was out on my own about 16. I had a little girl, and then I eventually got involved with crime, just drugs first, then crime.
I was a working mother, worked every day, and I just got caught up with into the wrong crowd of people that was using drugs and everything. And I came to New Orleans. Okay, I was from a small country town, and I got caught up with the wrong people, and I got in trouble. You know, got caught with the wrong man, and I was always a type of person that believed in having something out of life. But my old man was a drug addict, and I found out too late. And he used to fight, beat on me and everything. One day I just got tired, and I went and got a gun. I bought one, a .38, and I just shot him. I was tired of him whipping on me. I really was. And I didn't think to, at that particular time, to notify the police force or anything. I just did it on the spur of the moment and shot him. And boom, that's when it was.
Did you ever think that you might wind up here?
No, I really did not prison. You know, I was in jail, and even when I was in jail, I never thought I'd come to prison.
Many of the inmates at LCIW have children, as do the 4 inmates we spoke to. What impact has your incarceration had on your children?
It's hurt her, and it still is hurting her a whole lot. Well, I have 2 other children now. I had one in January, which is only 6 months old now. And they're having it rough. If I wouldn't have my mother to take care of them, you know, I was fortunate where my mother took care of them, where most people lose their children through something like this, and I didn't.
I really can't say, because since my incarceration in '79, I've not been allowed to see them or write to them, have no contact. But I'm sure it's had a strong impact on them.
I only have one, a boy, which is 19 years old. This has affected him a great deal in school, in the community, and he's sort of giving us a little bit of trouble now. With the help of the Lord, I hope that someone can reach him in time and tell him, by getting in trouble, where he'll be hated at for, because I can't talk to him. I really can't, because he think by me being in here, I can't tell him anything because I did wrong.
Individually, they've been affected in different ways. The older one, she was a teenager at the time, so she was a bit more receptive to it. The younger ones, I have one that's just ignored it altogether, you know. And the youngest one, he's taking it in his stride, I think, you know. And I have one that's kind of withdrawn, rebellious.
What about other members of your family?
It's torn the family apart, as far as my mother and myself were apart, and brothers and sisters were all distant.
The rest of my family could kind of cope with it, since it has been 9 years since I've been incarcerated, and they kind of understanding, you know, a little bit about what I'm going through, and they support me as much as they can. But my parents is very old, and they're doing as much as they can.
She has to do with all my children whenever it should be her time to be relaxed and enjoying life. Well, she's got my kids now to take care of, and I think it's dealing more with my kids than my family, because they've accepted. My kids miss me a lot. They have problems in school, and now they used to live in Baton Rouge and they moved to Washington, so they're far away now.
Next week, we'll conclude our look at women behind prison bars. We'll take a closer look at life in prison, the rehabilitation process, and what kind of life the inmates see for themselves once they are released. This season on Folks, we have a new feature called the Folks Almanac. It's sort of a trivia game, and we invite you to play along. Here is our first question from the Folks Almanac. On January 10th, 1966, this man was denied his seat in the Georgia legislature for opposing U.S. involvement in the Vietnam War. Who is he? We'll have the answer for you later in the program.
Our next story takes us to New Orleans. The Crescent City is a tough city for veterinarians, with more than 100 practicing vets. The market is highly competitive. In spite of that, there never seems to be a dull moment for Dr. George Robinson III. At the tender age of 27, he appears to be making a howling success of his veterinary practice. But choosing to practice in New Orleans was hardly a casual decision.
I chose New Orleans because, number one, it had a large black population, and they have no black veterinarians in New Orleans. Even though there's several black veterinarians who have come from New Orleans, they just keep on going wherever they're going to go. So I chose New Orleans, and it's the largest metropolitan area. And for the kind of work that I do, house calls, small animals, you need a population with a pretty decent median income. So New Orleans was the place.
In addition to surgery, treatment of birds, dogs, cats, and snakes, George enhances his practice with house calls for large patients or those persons who cannot make the trip to the Magnolia Pet Hospital. Gaining the confidence of his clients remains the largest obstacle for George.
The biggest pressure that I have is satisfying the needs of my clients. I have 24-hour emergency service where I'm the only doctor, and that can bend you out of shape. You get calls for animal emergencies just like people emergencies, practically 24 hours a day. And overcoming a lot of stereotypes in New Orleans. A lot of people think that, well, if they go to a black establishment, that it might not be up to par, or that the black doctor's not up to par, and a lot of foolishness like that. Whereas, first of all, I think for any black professional to make it and to graduate from these institutions, they not only have to be okay, they have to be very good. You know, it's difficult. My clientele is primarily, I think it's about 70%, 65 to 70% white, and the rest of the percentage is black. And it's not that black people don't take care of their pets. They take just as good a care of their pet as white people, but it's just overcoming the stereotypes. And I'm gradually doing it. I don't look at it in a negative way. I look at it in a positive way. I tell people who I meet in the street, I say, just come see my hospital. You know, we have outstanding facilities here. You know, I keep my credentials in the back. I don't even have it up front in the exam room or anything, because I feel that between me and my client across the table, if they don't have that kind of confidence in me from what I say and from my actions, then I don't want to show them all these degrees and diplomas and citations and everything, because I still haven't gotten the point across.
George finds most obstacles a challenge and attributes a large part of his success to his parents.
I've accomplished a lot of things that probably, if you looked at it, you'd say, no way. You know, number one, a black veterinarian can't make it in New Orleans. Or you're too young to start up your own business, and there's a lot of pitfalls in having your own practice and things like that. And I've overcome all of those obstacles. Matter of fact, I like to have obstacles in my way because it makes it that much more challenging. You know, I think I can characterize myself as an overachiever. If I see a goal, I'm going to go for it. You know, and I've always been that way.
How have you managed to become successful so quickly?
It's a lot of factors. One has to be that I feel that I'm blessed. I really feel that somebody up there is looking out after me. And I also feel that I'm lucky, because a lot of success has to do with having the right break at the right time. I've had a lot of friends who have been willing to help. As a matter of fact, throughout my development, I've had people who have said, let's give Robinson's son a chance. Or people who have had your interests at heart. And that's important, especially when you're young and you're formulating ideas. Instead of having people to put your ideas down or not support you, I've had support. Even though some of my ideas might have seemed wild, like bringing a snake home, and my parents would have normally said, well, get the snake, and why don't you go with the snake? They accepted it fairly well. As a matter of fact, my parents has to be the #1 influence in my life.
Concerned about the psychological well-being of the elderly pet owner, many of George's house calls are for the elderly.
See, veterinary medicine is such a broad field. You can do practically anything. Every piece of meat that we eat has been inspected by a veterinarian. Veterinarians are in public health, veterinarians do research, but I chose to do the practical aspect, clinical veterinary medicine. And I think I deal more with the people than the animals. We treat animal diseases, and it's pretty hard to diagnose animal diseases because they can't tell you what's wrong with them. But primarily, I try to educate the public about their pets and pet care. And we have a lot of compassion here at the practice because I believe that anyone who has a pet has a special reason for having the pet. And there's an emotional, special bond between the pet and the animal that's important. For different people, it's a different thing. Some people have their pets as status symbols. Other people have their pets as the only thing in the world that they can relate to. I have some older people that soon after their pet dies, they die. Yeah, you know, they become very, very attached emotionally to their animal. And so, taking that into consideration, I have to be a psychiatrist and a doctor. And in a lot of cases, we treat the people. There have been a lot of folks older people who have had heart attacks, whose major form of therapy is to go out and walk the dog. You know, the doctor keeps saying you need exercise. You know, you can't just sit around all day. You just had a heart attack. And it takes them to actually get out and walk that pet for them to get exercise. So I believe that pets are therapeutic for a lot of things. And we try to have that attitude here. We treat everyone's pet as if it were our own.
For George, being on 24-hour call, performing surgery, and being a one-man traveling show does have its price.
My social life suffers in a lot of ways. I've lost many a girlfriend because I work too hard. But at this point, I am dedicated to my career. However, in any situation where you're striving for certain goals, you have to have someone to share those goals with. So I guess when the right person comes along, I will be involved in a more serious relationship, and I will get married. I want to get married and have a family like anyone else, but my career is important, and it's number one. It's foremost in my mind.
One final note. Dr. Robinson offers senior citizens who are pet owners a substantial discount. He says, quote, "When you live on a fixed income, it's hard enough to pay your utility bills, let alone for a pet, and I like to encourage people to take care of their pets," end quote. This season, Folks is celebrating its 5th anniversary. Later in the fall, we will have a program looking back over the 5 years that Folks has been on Louisiana Public Broadcasting. But today, we'll be sharing with you the first of many Folks flashbacks. This week's flashback takes us to Natchitoches Parish, where in 1981, Folks visited primitive artist Clementine Hunter.
A lady used to come here, they call her Miss Alberta Kinsey, from New Orleans, and she'd come paint the magnolias and all them flowers. And when I was cooking, she'd leave all the paint she'd leave, she'd give it to me. And that's what I painted. That's what I never did bought no paint.
Our next story features a 73-year-old man who leads a popular singing group in the Baton Rouge area. And I think you'll find this next story particularly enjoyable if you like gospel music.
So right in this world, right in this world, so right in this world, so right in this world, so right in this world. Born in it, raised in it, live in it, die in it, so right in this world, so right in this world.
When you talk about gospel music in Baton Rouge a cappella style, the group most often mentioned is the Zion Travelers. The Zion Travelers have been around for more than 40 years now, and although some of the members have changed, Reverend Burnell Offley is a mainstay.
They were organized during, I guess, must have been 1942. And, well, I got with them long in that time, and I've been with them ever since from then. I've been with them about 40 years almost myself. And so we just been working. After they got me in, I had many other groups that I was working in, and I had to get rid of those groups in order to work with that because I was overloaded. See, I had a group you called the Gospel Four, and that was right here. And I was with them for quite a while, for a number of years. And then I had another female group, was known as the Silver Leaf. And I had to put them down, and I was also with the president of the choir at my church. And so I served a long time. So when I got with the Zion Travelers, I said, well, we got to get moving. So we started moving when I was with them about 2 years, and then I had them on the air, and they've been on the air ever since.
How would you describe your music?
Well, we don't use any instruments whatsoever. You know, I never did want to use instruments, you see, because when you're using instruments, it covers up the mistakes, and then it destroys the message that you bring to you. You see, every song that you sing carries a message, no matter what kind it is. It can be a blues, it can be anything, and it carries a great message. You take those folks singing blues, they get on that blues side and they're taking a direct experience. They get the mind buried in it. And so they can use a song sometime in a blues song saying, if I don't find my baby, I'll jump overboard and drown. You know, and some of them just get that weak. They think there's no other woman like that and they got in love with that woman. And if they don't find her, they don't want to live. And some of them do just that, get up on the bridge and jump overboard in the Mississippi River and drown. See, because they don't want to live. See, it's a great message to take. Well, you see, the others can prosper from that. They can say, well, I'll think about this thing. I might can find another one just as good as that one. And so you just have to let that go. But now that experience to really get it, now they got a message off of that. Now just like we sing in spiritual numbers, my numbers, I sing them almost directly from the Bible. I could just name you songs, give you scriptures from it, where you take it, and you could just take any of those gospel songs that we sing in there and take a sermon. Just go ahead on and preach it.
If you haven't guessed by now, Reverend Offley is the leader of the group, and he is one of the main reasons that the Zion Travelers have been around as long as they have.
It's a hard thing to keep choirs and quartets together. It's hard. You just got to be solid yourself. You just got to absolutely have your mind made up that you're not going to give up. You're going to go to the end.
For 37 years, the Zion Travelers have been singing live at WIBR Radio in Baton Rouge. They also spread their gospel message in churches and at festivals. This past summer, the group was one of several to represent Louisiana at a Folklife Festival in Washington, D.C.
There was a plenty of singing going on, and they really wanted us to go to represent the state, and we really represented them because they worked us. We worked those 2 weeks with those folks for twice a day. See, in the morning program would be 45 minutes, and the evening was 30 minutes. And really, one tough thing we had some tough blues singers coming in between my evening program. I had a hard blues. See, in the morning time, we opened the program. But in the evening, well, we had a hard blues band up front of them, and then another hard one coming right behind. They was wondering, how could I make it? I said, I cut my way through. So cutting my way through, president of those bands, I almost convinced those bands, and I believe if I could get to talk with them again, I could get them to get over on the Lord's side. And so they start asking questions, said, well, now, if I would come on the Lord's side like you said do, could I still play my music? I said, sure, you could play your music. I said, you're playing for the devil. You can play for God as well as you can play for the devil. I said, they got music in church, plenty kind of music, even almost got bands in church. They got drums, guitars, organs, and everything in church. I said, you can play. And they got these horn trombones and whatnot. And in the church, I said, you can play the church music playing for God as well as you play for the devil, because God got something to reward you. So he'll give you eternal life if you stay with him, but the devil don't have a thing to give you. Nothing but you get it right then. He'll be running just like them, trying to get out of that fire and can't.
During the week, Reverend Offley makes music with his cab. It's not just any cab. It's a classic 57 Chevy.
I bought it in 57, and I've been running that car. Of course, I let it rest about 6 years at one time. Yes, I'd have had more miles on than I have now, buying other cars, new cars, going along with the rest of the folks. And so I was kind of in bus business too, and had just bought a bus, and a guy hit me and tore up my brand new car and didn't have no insurance, didn't have no job, didn't have nothing. So nothing from nothing leave nothing. And I was just out of a car, and I went back and got my 57. And I've been running it ever since.
But on Sundays, he's with the Zion Travelers, making beautiful music.
I come to the garden alone while the dew is still on the roses, and a voice I hear falling on my ear, the
talks with me and he tells me I am his own, and the joy we share as we tarry there, none other has ever known. He speaks and the sound of his voice is so sweet, the birds hush their singing, and the melody that he gave to me within my heart is ringing. And he walks with me and he talks with me and he tells me I am his own, and the joy we share as we tarry there, none other has ever known.
Reverend Offley and the Zion Travelers. Okay, time now to answer the question from the Folks Almanac, which went like this. On January 10th, 1966, this man was denied his seat in the Georgia legislature for opposing U.S. involvement in the Vietnam War. Who is he? Well, the answer is Julian Bond, currently a state senator in Georgia. Well, here's hoping you got the right answer. That's our program for this week. Thanks for watching. Next week, part 2 of our look at women behind prison bars and Cajun fiddler Doug Kershaw. We hope to see you then. Bye-bye.